He's a medical professional. And these people want to come here. Why are we throwing them away? Why are we throwing skills away like this? Because they're brown?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Well, you know that's why.
It makes no sense.
That is the reason. I mean, let's be a little bit more generous. You begin with that fear of the other, that fear of the foreign, and then it is fed and watered by propaganda and lies, by finding one brown person who's done bad things and adding or creating the idea that because one brown person has done a bad thing, then all brown people must be feared and rejected. So it's subtler sometimes than the most base racism allows, but it is ultimately about that, isn't it? You know that it is. Everybody knows that it is. People screaming at the radio know that this is true. They just don't think it's a problem. They think it's absolutely reasonable to despise people because they're brown.
And it's absolutely insane, because even when you say that you have to accept these people are not inferior to you, well, of course we do. They're human beings, for goodness sake. But inferior? How many of the people who buy the mail and read the mail and read the lies in the mail and the Telegraph would have the gumption to get up and go to make it out alive from a war zone?
I often wonder
travel across thousands of miles of inhospitable countries, because there's no place really wants these people to come to, and get here in that, as you say, put their lives at risk crossing the channel. They've got a lot more about them than the guy with the England away shirt sitting in the public bar telling you what's causing the problems and how Brexit's going to be great.
Or Farage down in Dover with his Fisher-Price binoculars. I mean, it kind of goes...
Don't get me started on that, man.
No, I won't. I got it covered. And it is incredible, isn't it? I think the figure is about 70% of those that get across the channel have their asylum claim accepted. That's the elephant in the room.
Absolutely.
The massive majority are genuine refugees, genuinely seeking asylum. But people like Priti Patel and Paul Dacre at the Daily Mail understand how much political capital or commercial capital can be made out of treating them like scum and pretending that they're all scum and pretending that they're all fake and they're all bogus and they're all illegal. And it's great for business. It's that simple. And I don't know how you undo that.
It's great for their business, but it's not great for the national interest, because we need people at the moment.
And the national interest is the phrase that popped
up. The labour market.
Well, they're everywhere. You know, hospitality, and you mentioned the medical profession. There was another story this week about how disgusting it was that they were spending money on celebrating Filipino Independence Day. There was an NHS trust that had spent a few quid on celebrating Filipino. The most simple of Googles would tell you that Filipinos now make up, I think they're the third largest contributor to the British Health Service staff after Brits and Indians, I think it is. So Filipinos, why wouldn't you want them to celebrate a national holiday? Because they're your workforce. But you write it up for a British tabloid, and it's as if it's all a bunch of people from Stoke Newington and Bishop Stortford who are being forced to celebrate Filipino holidays against their will because it's all woke and politically correct. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers. I think we're 29th, are we? The number of refugees, total numbers, not even per capita. As we come behind Austria, which has a population approximately 13% of the UK. Thank you to Hans for those numbers. It is wrong that we do more than our fair share. It is wrong that most of the people coming here are bogus or not real. It is wrong that you can come here legally or come here through safe routes. All of these things are just wrong. And if the whole debate is built on wrongness, built on lies, built on racist propaganda, then you cannot fix the problem. Which leads me to conclude that the people peddling the racist propaganda, the people promoting the lies, the people peddling the nonsense don't want anything ever to be fixed. Timothy is in Harrogate. Timothy, what would you like to say?
Hi, morning, James.
Hello.
I've just been listening to the programme. I used to be immigration minister in the UK between 95 and 97. I'm a Conservative, and I'm quite proud of our record generally.
Well, then it was
it
was a proudish record then, wasn't it?
Well, I'm not going to sort of say it on a personal basis.
No.
All I would say to you is that I was also an MEP in Europe for many years, and I was responsible for drafting or helping to draft the Dublin agreements, which, of course, gave us the right, as you rightly say, to return applicants from this country to another country in Europe, certainly.
Yes.
And of course, we lost that when we left the European Union. So we are limited in terms of what we can do. I'm not in favour of Rwanda because I voted against it and I've spoken against it.
You're Lord Kirkhope, just for anybody listening. Timothy Kirkhope, that's right, isn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Well,
I mean, what you're saying is quite right in a sense. I mean, asylum seekers cannot be illegal per se. If you're an asylum seeker, you're a person who actually is looking for help, however you get to wherever you are. And I think the answer is our record in this country has been a proud one. I was part of what I thought was quite a good operation where we looked at every case under the UN Convention, the United Nations Convention on Refugees.
Yes.
If people met the criteria, James, we would admit them. Even if they did not meet the full criteria, we had a way of giving people leave to remain if we felt that it was humane to do so.
Yes.
And as a result of that, this country has not got the largest number of refugees by any means. I mean, we're quite small compared with most European countries, certainly. Yes. But we've got a good record on that. And I think it's a shame that we're ending up now with a situation where, it's almost lumping in asylum seekers with immigrants, which is a different thing altogether. And I think that's where the government's got it wrong, frankly.
Well, I don't want to. I'm sure you've got your wits about you, and I wouldn't be able to do anyway. But I mean, it's not happened by accident to this government. They haven't accidentally started conflating sort of immigration in general with asylum seeking and refugees, have they?
Well, I mean, the position, I'm not in the government. I am a conservative still. And my view is that and I have reminded ministers on many occasions that the two things are separate.
Yes.
That our record is a good one. We need to maintain that record, and we need to find legal ways in which people can apply for asylum so their cases can be properly considered. And I think the trouble we've got at the moment is this business of these poor people in boats.
Yes.
Is a very sad reflection on the situation we've got, where we don't have the right kind of discussions going on between ourselves and our European neighbours anymore, and that saddens me. I'm one of those blasted people that are called Ramonas, if you know what I mean. But I'd get fed up with people saying, "Get over it, Kirk, yes. Get over it." I mean, I've got over it to a large extent. I want to see a future good relationship with Europe now. I know we're out of Europe, but I'm afraid some of my colleagues have not got over it.
And they're the ones that won.
Exactly, and I think this is a great problem. It's sullying the whole reputation. I mean, as I said, I'm proud. I'm not here to sort of knock the Conservatives. I know your views and
yes.
things, and I don't agree with you about a lot of stuff you talk about. But I mean, sometimes I do, and today I do, because I think that we all need to examine ourselves and our consciences and also work out how we best can deal with this matter in a pragmatic way rather than all this kind of ideology.
Yes, well, it's a generous word, ideology, to describe much of what drives these engines. But I'm interested in just pinning you down on one thing, which is that because the Rwandan thing is so pie in the sky that I've struggled on occasion to imagine where it came from. But I think you've crystallised that thought for me. It is because relations have broken down so completely between us and our nearest neighbours, us and the countries through which these people would have passed, and therefore under Dublin would potentially have been returned to if their applications failed. So, because those communications have broken down so completely, we're sort of dangling in the wind, and the idea of fixing or making this problem smaller or helping these desperate people in these death trap dinghies is actually rendered incredibly harder by the breakdown in communications with our closest neighbours geographically.
Yes. Well, actually, this is a big problem. I mean, you did mention just earlier, I was driving, I listened to you mention my good friend Richard Harrington,
yes,
who is the Minister.
I hope I haven't cursed him, Timothy. I hope the curse of O'Brien, every Tory I speak warmly of ends up sort of something terrible happens to him.
Yeah, but partly the reason I rang you was to take away, like a lightning conductor, take away the trouble for Richard. I'm not a minister, so they can have a go at me rather than Richard. But he's a good minister, and he's a decent man, and he understands the problems. But I mean, undoubtedly, I think what you're saying is absolutely right in that we really do need to work hard on these relations with our European neighbours here, because there is a willingness. I know we attack the French and say the French are, some people even say the French are pushing these people into dinghies and pushing them over. I mean, that is absolute rubbish. And the thing is, we need to work more closely with them in a positive way. People are always going to be moving around the world, more so as climate change and all these other things. There's going to be a lot of movements. We've got to work out how to handle it. We can only handle it if we do it internationally and in a cooperative manner. So, I mean, I'm really upset that, as I said, the reputation which we've had as a country, and indeed in my party, is being spoilt by these sort of initiatives, which I don't think are going to work.
Yes. Well, and obviously I hope you're wrong in the same way that you hope I'm wrong, but I can't see any prospect of the current direction of traffic delivering any form of solution or amelioration of the problems that the people crossing the channel face, but also the problems that get blown up in this country as well. Thank you, Timothy. Lord Kirkup. I mean, just pause for a minute and think about a conversation about immigration in which myself and a former Conservative immigration minister are singing from more or less the same hymn sheet. And then just wonder briefly what's happened to this country with regard to this issue. It's not a million years ago. You know, that was in the last days of John Major's government, 95 to 97. You know, arch dreadful lefty James O'Brien on the radio banging on about immigration, and a former Conservative immigration minister rings in to agree, because that's what happens when you deal in facts and knowledge and understanding. You can find common ground. You have to find common ground because the facts are objective. You deal in feelings, all bets are off. All bets are off. That said, I'm rather gratified to hear from you. Thank you. It's 11:49. 11:53 is the time. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. I'm tempted to do a whole hour of Woke Watch after 12 o'clock today. I don't know if you've seen the story about Argos. Sometimes I see things trending and I click on them and think, that can't be that story from 2 days ago, can it, that you forgot to include on your Woke Watch feature, James? I have quite a fascinating inner dialogue going on, obviously, at all times, and then it is. So Argos have done something utterly innocuous that has apparently prompted utter outrage. And as we occasionally allow ourselves on the programme, we will be taking our scalpel to that outrage after 12, unless things change, and finding out where it comes from and what it all means. Before that, something rather more important. I came across a charity a few years ago called Who is Hussein, the Who is Hussein Foundation. And it's a Muslim charity that works all over the world, helping, well, not to put too fine a point on it, pretty much anybody who needs help. And they have all sorts of initiatives going on in all sorts of countries, working and helping in all sorts of ways. And their latest campaign is potentially a world record breaking campaign. It is an attempt to break the world blood donation record to save lives. I'm delighted to tell you that I'm joined by the director of the foundation, Muntazir Rai, and by the head of relief at the Who is Hussein Foundation, Dr. Sayada Maraji, who's also a GP. And I'll ask you first, Muntazir, what exactly is it that you're trying to achieve and why?
Hi, James. Good morning. Thank you very much for having us on. Great to be on your show. So we're trying to achieve something pretty ambitious. We're trying to get 50,000 people to donate blood on one calendar date. That's going to be this coming Saturday on August the 27th. And that, in turn, will hopefully save 150,000 lives. Obviously, for one unit of blood that is donated, you get up to 3 adult lives saved. So pretty ambitious target we've got. But if we pull it off, it's going to be an amazing thing.
This is across all 6 continents as well. It's not confined to a small corner of the country or anything like that.
No, it's across 6 continents exactly. It's going to be in about 20 countries, and we've actually got over 350 donation points spanning the globe that we're going to be doing this from. And it's going to start off, actually, because of time difference, it's going to be starting off in New Zealand, sort of 9 p.m. UK time, and spanning all the way till about 11 p.m., even midnight on Saturday when we finish off in the west coast of America. So
it's like the New Year's Eve fireworks, isn't it? It kicks off in New Zealand first and the rest of the world falls like dominoes.
Exactly. Just a little bit more maybe life-saving than the New Year's Eve. But yeah, quite like that, yeah.
Sayada, why is the need for blood donation so acute at the moment? What is it about the current climate that makes this such an urgent mission?
Yeah, hi, James. So what we've seen recently, well, currently we've seen all over the world, we've seen a huge shortage of blood. So it's not just in the UK. In October last year, the UK needed 100,000 new donors to meet the rising demand. And every single day, the UK needs to recruit 400 new donors just to sort of meet up with the rising needs in hospitals. So there's a huge shortage. COVID has also had an impact on this. And that's why we sort of want to bring the focus to blood donation and getting people to go on, to go ahead on Saturday, to come into one of the locations and to donate blood.
How do they find their nearest location? How do people find out how to get it?
Yeah, so it's a very, very quick and easy process. You need to go onto the website blood.whoishussein.org to sort of sign up and book your appointment. And then according to sort of your location, it will tell you what's available and where you can go.
What holds people back? Is it ignorance or reluctance, Sayada? Is it? I mean, as a GP, are we talking about people being frightened of needles, or are we talking about people just not knowing A, how desperate the need for blood is, and B, how easy it is to donate?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of all of those things. What we see is, there is sort of a fear around donating blood, but I think a lot of it comes down to people not knowing about the actual blood donation process. It's as simple as that. There is a lot of information out there. There's also a lot of misinformation out there, and with Who is Hussein, we have been working to sort of tackle these misconceptions, to bust myths. So just to sort of go through a couple of these for the listeners. So there's, a lot of people think that the process is very long, it's time consuming, it's onerous, whereas in fact, it's actually very, very quick. So the whole process, once you've signed up, takes just 1 hour. And the actual blood donation part, the giving blood, is literally 5 to 10 minutes. People also think it's painful. Again, apart from sort of a small needle being inserted, the entire process should be painless. And it's also carried out by very experienced healthcare professionals. Something else I hear a lot is, I can't donate because I've got a particular medical condition, I'm on certain medications. Again, what you'll find is that, regardless of whether it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, in a lot of these cases, you can actually donate. So I would urge sort of listeners, the public, to go onto the NHS blood donation website, where you can actually find the criteria. You can go through the different medical conditions and sort of see whether, and like I said, you'll find that you probably are eligible. So, I think it's a mix of those different reasons.
Mobilise the nation. Do I get a biscuit?
You will get a biscuit.
Fantastic. No, that's all I needed to know. I'm going to ask Muntazir. Thank you, Sayada. I'll ask Muntazir the final question, which is a little bit, if you would, about the charity. As I mentioned, I was introduced to your work a few years ago, but most people listening won't know. They won't know who Hussein is, Muntazir. So who is he, and what is this organisation that you've built in his name?
Yeah, thank you. So essentially, Hussein was the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. So he lived 1400 years ago. He's by far somebody who is incredibly inspirational, someone who people of all faiths can take from, someone who's clearly inspired us to do incredible work for the last 10 years now. He has said previously that the most generous person is the one who offers support without expecting anything in return. And it's exactly that, value and those sort of principles that he had to stand up for, especially in light of tyrannical rulers, justice, and lack of sort of morals at the time that he was living in. And he had to give the ultimate sacrifice, which was his life. And off the back of those values, we as the Who is Hussein Foundation have been working for 10 years now, like you said at the beginning, from that inspiration, trying to help the most vulnerable in society, regardless of faith, gender, ethnicity, what have you. And ultimately, he really is somebody that I think anybody and everybody can learn about. And to find out more about him, please do visit whoishussein.org. James himself has actually spoken at our Conference of Social Justice a few years ago. And I think you'll probably agree that he's definitely somebody with a deep sort of history and many lessons that we can all learn from.
It was an education for me in all manner of ways. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on the show today. You find out more about this particular record-breaking attempt at blood.whoishussein.org. My thanks to Muntazir Rai, the director of the foundation, and Dr. Sayada Mauji, who head of relief at the Who Is Foundation, Who Is Hussein Foundation, and also a GP. That's amazing. I mean, if they pull that off, that would be 50,000 blood donors across 6 continents, which would save the lives potentially of 150,000 different people. So get involved. # Global Blood Heroes. It's 1 minute after 12. It is 5 minutes after 12. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. We haven't done much on American politics lately. I mean, it's because it's terrifying, actually. It's out of sight, out of mind. The continuing attempts by Donald Trump and his allies to pretend that he actually won the last election are genuinely breathtaking. I mean, genuinely, but I never thought I'd see it. I thought it happened. I knew it happened in places like North Korea and Vladimir Putin's Russia or Soviet-era Russia. But the idea that you would have a national narrative swallowed wholesale by members of the public who are living in a free country. That's the distinction between North Korea or Russia. Living in a free country, believing utter hogwash because of their devotion to a despicable, depraved human being. It is incredible, quite incredible. But on it goes. And, you know, there are some moments of comedy. So the guy who's taking up the mantle of Donald Trump, the one who seems to be possibly replacing Trump in the affections of Rupert Murdoch and Fox News, is a guy called Ron DeSantis in Florida. I guess we should get the Woke Watch thing ready as well. We should get the Woke Watch. I don't know which way round to do this, because this is like, imagine all your Woke Watches came at once. This is incredible. Should we bookend it? Should we bookend the clip with the Woke Watches? All right, and I'll say nothing in between. Can we do that? So it goes Woke Watch, clip, Woke Watch. Are you ready for this? Stop watching how close to 1 million followers I'm getting on Twitter, Keith, will you? And concentrate on the job in hand. So we're going clip. We're going Woke Watch, clip, Woke Watch. Ready? Steady, go.
Woke Watch.
We can't just stand idly by while woke ideology ravages every institution in our society. We must fight the woke in our schools. We must fight the woke in our businesses. We must fight the woke in government agencies. We can never, ever surrender to woke ideology. And I'll tell you this, the state of Florida is where woke goes to die.
Woke Watch.
That's the end of Woke Watch, isn't it? I mean, how are you ever going to top that? And of course, he wouldn't be able to tell you if he was sat here now what woke means. What does it mean? What does it bloody mean? And I know I said I'd stop using that word on the radio because it was spreading by a form of profanity osmosis. Should we do that once more? I mean, just listen to this. Is he the governor of Florida? I think he's the governor of Florida. He's probably going to go into the presidential race. As I say, I'm not watching things as closely as I could, but it was, quite breathtaking to see someone go all in on it. And when you pause and think about it, I know what you're thinking. How the hell is this going to turn into a conversation about Argos, the place you go to buy your patio furniture? Trust me, it is. The point is this: it's so wonderful what we were just doing with refugees in the last hour, and pointing out how the people who dedicate the most attention to claiming to want the problem fixed are the people who don't want the problem fixed at all, because it is the only thing that makes them relevant. If he hadn't managed to weaponize hatred of foreigners, what would Nigel Farage be doing now? You know, propping up a bar somewhere, inflicting his halitosis on everybody that walks past him. So this notion of woke, it's the new refugee in a way, or the new Mexican, or the new whatever it is. But it's even better than that, because it doesn't even have to involve taking one bad apple and claiming that the whole barrel is rotten. You know, it's because there's one Muslim terrorist, we must ban all Muslims from America. That doesn't quite hold up to logical scrutiny, because you've got a Muslim doctor Or you've got a Muslim over there, like the people that we just spoke to from Who is Hussein doing amazing things. So that thing that Trump tried to do when they said, well, if you've got one bad one, then you must ban them all. It doesn't quite work because you can see the good ones. And you'd be like, well, hang on, why are we banning it? Why we don't ban all doctors just because of Harold Shipman. We don't ban all radio presenters just because of Jimmy Savile. We don't ban all Muslims just because of one terrorist or 10 terrorists. It just doesn't, do you see? It doesn't work because you can see the good guys. So woke is perfect because you can't see anything. Woke is just everything you want it to be and nothing. What don't you like? That's woke, that is. It's like a Baddiel and Newman and Baddiel sketch, isn't it? That's you, that is. That's woke, that is. What's woke? That is. That's woke, that is. What do you feel a bit uncomfortable about something? Yes, I do. That's woke, that is. Are you very cross about something? Yes, I am. That's woke, that is. Are you frightened of something? Yes, I am. That's woke, that is. Are you a bit slow on the uptake when it comes to that particular... Yeah, I am. I don't really understand. That's woke, that is. It's all woke. Everything's woke. Woke to the left of me, woke to the right of me, woke right in front of me. Have another listen to this, and you tell me whether you think he could tell you what woke means.
We can't just stand idly by while woke ideology ravages every institution in our society. We must fight the woke in our schools. We must fight the woke in our businesses. We must fight the woke in government agencies. We can never, ever surrender to woke ideology. And I'll tell you this, the state of Florida is where woke goes to die.
He sounds like a Scooby-Doo villain, doesn't he? Apart from the bit at the beginning where he couldn't quite get the words out. Maybe because his brain was screaming at his mouth, "Don't do this, please, come on. You went to school. You know how nonsense." Do you know what woke is? I just worked it out during that little clip, which we'll probably play again because it's so hilarious. Except not hilarious. Like everything about American politics since Donald Trump got the Republican nomination, it is both hilarious and terrifying at the same time. Woke is woo. You know, like woo. Woo! It's like a word for just something scary that you can't quite articulate. Just listen to it again and substitute the word. In fact, I'll do it for you. Substitute the word woke for the word woo. Okay, that's what it is. It is so incredible to see sentient human beings sucking this stuff up. But then, of course, the conversation that we had in the last hour about refugees comes storming back into our consciousness. How easy it is to frighten decent people or to turn them against an enemy that they can't even, in this case, describe, define, or discern. So let's see if it works.
We can't just stand idly by while woke ideology ravages every institution in our society. We must fight the woke in our schools. We must fight the woke in our businesses. We must fight the woke in government agencies. We can never, ever surrender to woke ideology. And I'll tell you this, the state of Florida is where woke goes to die.
Woohoo. 12 minutes after 12 is the time. So what's the... it's the applause a few of you are saying that's giving me the heebie-jeebies. I mean, it's funny, James, but who the hell is clapping him? Who's worse, says Jen, in Stilton, him or those cheering him? And Dan in Chester, as I'm not entirely confident, he could tell me where he is. I now bring your attention to Argos. I'm a big fan of Argos. I don't know whether this involves me having to hand in my Waitrose club card or something like that, but I love Argos. I bought all sorts of stuff in it. I bought my mum a wheelchair in Argos when she was coming to visit because I wanted to take her for a little tour of the environs and she's not as fleet of foot as she used to be. I got a really nice wheelchair from Argos. Is incredible. I know this, what's it called? The rainforest one that all the kids are talking about? Amazon, is it? Or something like that. Who needs Amazon when you've got Argos? Argos is the future. I've got a lot of time for Argos. And there was a story Thursday or Friday, about a word. A word. A single word. I know what I've done. I've done it again, haven't I? I've completely shut down any possibility of the people that I'm about to talk about ringing me. I've got to start. I've got to work on this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Because apparently people are absolutely livid. And I've checked on social media. People who appear to be real are genuinely furious. About Argos changing a word on their website or on an advert. So over the weekend, the retail company removed the term two-man delivery from its catalogues and replaced it with the words two-person delivery. That's it. That's the story. Argos has banned the term from its not really banned it. I'm sure the word man still appears in its tissue section, describing man-sized tissues. I'm sure that, you're buying clothes in there. I mean, why would you write banned? Even the Independent's getting involved now. A normally very reliable news source. I bet you 50p that Argos have not banned the word man from their catalogues. I bet you that if you go to the clothing section, it will be pretty clear which clothes are designed chiefly for a man and which clothes are... Where else is the word man going to appear in the Argos catalogue? Come on, I have a think. Where? Bikes, yeah, man size, men's bikes, men, man, me, men, me say mini, many, mini. No, just me that likes the Fugees, is it? Okay. Anyway, they haven't banned it. They've changed the phrase two-man delivery to two-person delivery. And then, of course, it gets picked up and newspapers write that it is a result of complaint. According to The Sun, Argos had previously defended the usage of the word man by saying it was used as a non-gender term similar to human and that the company had many female delivery drivers. But it was updated earlier this year. The wording is still on signs, but that is expected to change soon. So shall I tell you what has happened? What's happened here is someone has had it brought to their attention. There may be a couple of emails, perfectly mild-mannered, innocuous emails saying it's a bit odd to say two-man delivery. I'm a woman and I do deliveries. Also, it's not the biggest deal in the world, is it? But I just thought you might want to be aware. Yeah. And so they go, tell you what, let's change it, Keith. Let's change it to two-person delivery, shall we? Because, it's a little bit, it's just a bit inaccurate to say two-man delivery. Two-person, it's no biggie, no big deal. Okay, let's do it. And then this mad thing happens, which for me is the essence of woke, or woo. And it's this astonishing avalanche of what appears to be genuine anger. It's the bit I find most hilarious, stroke baffling, is that I don't really think that many people care about it being two-man delivery. So this notion of snowflakes or thin-skinned individuals, right? They don't... There's, half a dozen emails? 20 emails? And now there are hundreds of thousands of people who are furious about it being two-person delivery. So it's the weirdest form of projection. The weirdest form of projection. This idea that how are people getting so angry about an innocuous two-man delivery? I can't believe how woke everybody. This is, but the actual thing you're describing is the thing in the mirror. The people having a hissy fit, the people clutching their pearls, the people claiming that something has to change and we can't go on like this and it's absolutely outrageous, are the people complaining about the phrase two-person delivery. There are millions more people expressing anger about the phrase two-person delivery than there ever were about the phrase two-man delivery. And what I want to understand, and I'm afraid I'm going to insist on this conversation being specific in part to what Argos has done in this case. Men's watches, thank you. Molly's been doing a bit of research for me. Eau de toilette for men. Plenty of men still in Argos, so they haven't banned the word man from their catalogue. They haven't. What is it exactly that gets people upset? The people cheering Ron DeSantis who don't know what the word woke means, and the people screaming at Argos for replacing the phrase two-man delivery with the phrase two-person delivery. Have a crack either at describing your own feelings specific to this story. What is it Argos have done that has upset you so much? How have they hurt you? Or do what I do and try to understand where this comes from. Hit the numbers now, you will get through. 0345 6060973 is the number that you need. It's bonkers but is so widespread that there must be answers to these questions. What exactly has Argos done? Or what is so upsetting about what Argos has done? Hit the numbers now. You really will get through. 0345 6060 973. Maybe by 1 o'clock today, I'll be angry with Argos as well. Maybe it's me that's missing the point. Maybe I'm having my birthright taken away without me noticing, and it's time I stood up and defended good old-fashioned anti-woke values. But here's the story. Argos used to advertise two-man delivery. They now advertise two-person delivery, and half the world's gone absolutely nuts. Why? 22 minutes after 12 is the time. Here it is. What am I supposed to be worried about? So Argos have changed a phrase in their literature, in their commercial literature. They have changed the phrase two-man delivery to two-person delivery. Right? What am I supposed to be upset about? Because lots of people are very, very upset, and they're convinced that everybody else is actually upset. People were much more upset about the two-man delivery phrase than the two-person delivery phrase. I haven't yet met anyone who was upset about the two-man delivery phrase, but I understand why Argos have changed it to two-person in the same way that, that the word person describes more people than the word man does. It's pretty straightforward. Would I have done it myself? Possibly not. Am I going to have a cow about it? Absolutely no chance. So why are so many... What am I supposed to be upset about? 0345 6060 973. Can I still buy a two-man tent in Argos? I don't know, Furious of Tunbridge Wells. But would you be broken in some way if it was changed to a two-person tent? I think not. 12:23 is the time. Andy is in Bexhill. Andy, what's going on? What am I supposed to be upset about?
I'm not entirely sure it is grounds for being upset, but I used to work for Argos, and there are completely separate organisations within the group. The vans that most people see, which are driven by both male and females of the species, are one-person vehicles, and we're limited to the weight of things that we can pick up, which I think is 20 kilos, right? Anything heavier than that goes on the two-man team. Things like washing machines and wardrobes and
yeah, but in
like
the
that,
shops,
right?
there's never been two signs in the shops, has it?
No, we're talking about deliveries, aren't we?
No, we're talking about the signs in the shops. It says two-man delivery sign in the brand new Lewisham shop. Do you only hire men? It's a very outdated and insensitive phrase. Is the only complaint the newspapers have been able to find.
Right, well, I stand to be corrected because I wasn't actually in that part of it.
That's what I do.
I don't think that the two-man teams who drive the big HGV trucks, right, who are delivering things to homes like washing machines, I stand to be corrected, but I think they are generally all male.
I mean, let's pretend they are. It's unlikely, we've got one of the people...
There are some very strong women around.
There are these days, Andy. They're getting stronger all the time, mate, aren't they? They'll be winning flipping football tournaments before you know where you are. But
only against women.
Yeah, that's right. For now, Andy. But give them time. Give them time, mate. But the thing is, and I don't want to box you into a corner that you're not really in. You don't care, do you, that they've changed it from two-man to two-person?
Oh, it's just using up more ink, isn't it?
Well, exactly that, and more work for the sign writers. So it's a good thing. But I don't know that you're going to be much help to me here in answer to the question. What am I supposed?
I'm not here to be helpful.
Well, that makes two of us. What am I supposed to be upset about?
The fact that other people are upset about it.
It's a living, Andy. It's a living. My kids need shoes. 25 minutes after 12 is the time. I mean, let me see if I can find you some Here it is. I worked in the Argos call centre as a complaints manager for 10 years. Not once did any customer ever complain about the phrase two-man delivery. At that point there, do you not think, so why am I complaining about the phrase two-person delivery? Why am I becoming the person who complains about phrases? But no, because this person goes on. Stop lying to your customers so you can invoke Stonewall's gender insanity. Go woke, go broke. Two-man delivery becomes two-person delivery. And incredibly, it is the people who are... it is the people who are furious are complaining about other people complaining. Dane is in Waltham Forest. Dane, help me out. What's going on?
Good afternoon, James.
Hello.
So I feel like there's a misappropriation of the word on both sides.
No, stop. No, you're going all highbrow and highfalutin. I am talking about Argos. I am not talking about wokeness. I'm talking about Argos, Dane. What am I supposed to be upset about?
This is the problem, James. We're not supposed to be upset about Argos because there are bigger fish to fry.
This person is upset. I'm finding out the internet is full of upset people.
I know, but it seems like in today's society we're fueled by moral outrage. So if Argos have upset you over their terminology, then that's your order of the day to be upset about. But genuinely, and I'm genuinely not trying to be highbrow because I know we're keeping this light.
Go on,
but wokeism, beyond the fact that the word woke is a past participle of wake, you're awakening to the social injustices around you, and you're in tune to them. I think it gained popularity maybe in the UK, although it was propounded for a long time in the States, after the Black Lives Matter movement really put forward the George Floyd issue. But I think, similar to everything, I think once we dilute the word of its meaning, it's easier to mock it. And to be honest, that gentleman in Florida, trust it to be a Florida man, but that gentleman in Florida is the perfect example of how, by mocking the idea of wokeism, which is a genuine concept, it rinses it of its meaning. So it's easy to belittle it and it's easy to overlook. And more often than not, the people who mock wokeism the most are the ones that benefit from the injustices that wokeism is trying to fight against. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you for saying it. Some of it was a statement of the bleeding obvious, wasn't it, really? I mean, obviously, this Herbert... No, I'm glad that you've said it, but obviously this geezer in Florida is coming out with all the woke stuff in order to boost his and get cheered by people who've got no idea what it means, except that little bit that you touched upon, which is that little nod, as Trump did as well, towards the idea the world is changing and people of colour are edging ever closer to something that resembles equality, and people who don't like that, I think we could loosely describe them as massive and disgusting racists, are very easily inflamed and incited. But how does Argos fit into that equation?
Well, it doesn't. I suppose.
Well, it must do, because it's woke.
To me, they gave a perfectly good explanation, and in terms of using the man idea, not for sex or gender, but the human construct, and that makes entire sense to me. But how many people who are outraged have actually looked into what Argos said was the rationale behind using the word man?
But that's what intrigued. So how are they rendered so angry so quickly, and how can they not see that they are precisely the thing they claim to oppose?
I can't speak on behalf of a group that I don't belong to.
You wouldn't get very far in this job then, Dane. It's coming up to 12:30. The world has gone mad. Writes another one. I'm sick of them changing everything because of, and I can't even say that word on the radio. That's how angry he is. Who can't cope with normality. Yes, you, and I can't even say that word. That's how angry he is. You at Argos with the 2-man delivery. Stop changing stuff. Leave it the same. If they don't like it, they can go themselves. That's a real person. I know it's social media. Argos rather beautifully have replied, can you please DM us on the link below with your order number and billing details, and we'll be happy to help you with this. I presume that's a robot responding to a complaint about Argos, as opposed to a genius in their social media department picking up a Gamony snowflake and kicking him around the room for fun. It's 12:30. Amelia Cox is here now with your headlines. Still trending. I know it's not. I mean, you can trend with 2,000 tweets these days. It's a fairly meaningless measure, but we're still a bit hypnotised by it, aren't we? And Argos is still trending over a story that is... I mean, here you go, here's another one. Argos could have simply changed their wording to 2-person delivery without any public hoo-ha, and no one would have cared. It is literally you people who are creating the hoo-ha. Argos didn't make a massive announcement. I don't think. Maybe they did. So what? Who cares? It's words on a poster saying 2-person delivery. What on earth am I supposed to be upset about? Or what are you upset about? About what Argos have done? 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. And have another listen to Ron DeSantis, who is the new sort of poster boy for Donald Trump's Republican Party. This is where it leads. I warned you this was going to happen. I told you this. I literally said, you're going to have to call this out. Otherwise, it's going to end up meaning anything and everything. And here it is now.
We can't just stand idly by while woke ideology ravages every institution in our society. We must fight the woke in our schools. We must fight the woke in our businesses. We must fight the woke in government agencies. We can never, ever surrender to woke ideology. And I'll tell you this, the state of Florida is where woke goes to die.
And what have you got an example, Mr. DeSantis, of wokeness? Yes, I have, Mr. O'Brien. In your little country, there's a company called Argos, and they just changed the name on a poster from two-man delivery to two-person delivery, and we cannot let that happen. I'm terribly sorry, I don't know quite what happened then. The phone lines are open. 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. Martin is in Bristol. Martin, what are we supposed to be upset about?
I can't necessarily convince you that you have to be upset about it, but I've got a theory on how it's become so upsetting and emotive to certain people.
Go on.
When you get corrected in a conversation, in a social situation, because you used a term that used to be normal and it's been part of your vocabulary for maybe 30, 40, 50 years, and you get stopped in your tracks and told, "Oh, you can't say that anymore."
Yes,
that is a really uncomfortable situation.
It can be. Do you have teenage children?
I do not.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Happens to me with my teenage children.
Yeah,
and it is slightly galling.
Yeah,
but how does that lead to Argos?
I think after multiple times it leaves a sort of.
Well, how often does it happen to you? Because I'll tell you what happens to me. I might say to one of my children, I say, "Stop treating me like a slave." And she might say, "Oh, you shouldn't really say that because you're comparing bringing me breakfast in bed to centuries of exploitation and murder." And I kind of think, I'm not really, am I? I mean, that's the kind of thing you mean, right?
Yes.
So how does that lead to Argos?
It's because people they lose empathy over time and they become more defensive.
Empathy with whom?
With empathy with the people who are pushing for a more progressive language that includes more people.
Yeah.
And so after multiple occurrences, their empathy slips and they start to get a bit more defensive.
But if you haven't got teenage children, how is it going to happen multiple times? I mean, it's quite an odd thing to do to someone that you don't know very well, isn't it? Unless you're in a sort of academic environment or something like that. When's it happened to you?
There's a couple of examples. One was the time I used the term natural beauty.
Yes.
And the conversation was stopped in its tracks.
So tell me the context of that. I won't stop you in your tracks. What do you mean?
The context, I happened to say the sentence that I don't know why Katy Perry wears so much makeup because she's actually a natural beauty. That's what I was saying.
And what, you think that you shouldn't receive any criticism for that slightly creepy comment?
Oh, I was open for criticism.
Right. So what weren't you? What did you feel was unfair? What made you lose empathy for the people that criticised you?
The way in which it was stopped immediately, and I was made to feel uncomfortable. I've reflected on this and I've remembered it, and I've certainly guarded my words in future because I am open to change and I will change afterwards.
Good.
But
I mean, you know that. I mean, I suppose the word patriarchy springs to mind now, and that is actually part of what you're describing, isn't it? If I say that's a pretty nasty example of the patriarchy, you casting judgment on how a woman looks and what she should be doing in public with regards to her own looks, and then that do you know? I in a way I admire your honesty. Then again, 48% of me isn't sure whether you're part of the problem or part of the solution.
Yeah, well, certainly. Yeah, I'm pretty split myself. And,
so, what was the other example apart from the Katy Perry?
The other example was the one you used. I was volunteering for a particular cause, and we were working really hard. By the end of the day, I was covered in paint, covered in sweat, a little bit sunburned, and I just happened to say to a friend, "Oh, I've been around the corner in the park. It's like slave labour."
Yes.
So and again, the conversation.
But it was your friend that called you out on it.
Yeah, former colleague.
Okay.
And stopped, and the conversation, which was quite pleasant to and fro, sort of stops in its track, and it's like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
And the mood twists and it changes. And
it does if you let it.
Yeah.
Because it is that. I think you're absolutely right, actually. It's that implicit... Because I'll tell you where else you get it. You get it with teetotal people or vegetarians, where you're actually feeling judged and you don't like it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not judging you. So teetotal people are not judging you. They're not thinking that you're inferior because you drink alcohol or eat meat. Some are, but they're not going to say it out loud anymore. And so here it is, you don't like being judged. Now... And none of us really like being judged. I think that's natural. Even if we deserve it, we don't like it, do we? That's the whole point about judgments. How does that lead to Argos? The idea is that now they've replaced the word man with person. Is the same of that time I got told not to compare myself to a slave.
But I can imagine less open to change people than myself, who have had the same defensive response, are now building up a list of things in their head that they feel like they're sticks that they're going to get beaten with. And when
so you're living in fear
is presented, yes, I believe it. I believe that. I'm not personally scared of the Argos phraseology change.
No,
but I can see.
But you see it as being part of the same process as you being peeved when you made slightly creepy comments. But I shouldn't say. Well, I do find them slightly creepy. Natural beauty for me is a bit of a red flag. Are you for a middle-aged man talking about a young woman? Because what you're really saying is, she should behave in a way that makes her more attractive to me.
Fundamentally, yes.
Yeah, and that's pretty grim. Which is why I admire honesty, actually, in a way. But of course, we're not talking about impeccable logical progressions. We're talking about weird reactions to outwardly innocuous behaviours. And the Argos stuff brings back memories, if not for you, then for other people, of all those other times when they were made to feel judged.
Yeah, because encouraging change within yourself or within someone else is a very difficult process, and it's very delicate. It can be easily upset.
Martin, I've written a book about it. Would it be fair, as Julian Suffolk puts it, to see this as subconscious guilt makes people very angry with those who are trying to do the right thing?
Subconscious guilt.
Guilt's a bit strong. I don't know if that's in response to you personally or to the general topic in particular.
Well, if you were the one who said the word that then made the conversation go off rails, then it is very human and natural to feel a sense of guilt about that.
Yeah, if not the use of the word initially, then the reaction to it, the sense of having introduced a bit of a cold shower to a previously warm exchange. Martin, thank you. I'm very grateful to you for your insights and your honesty. I'm not on the same page as you, but I can just remember inklings of it when you have your language policed. But that's, I suppose, the nature of evolving language. But it probably does lead to people feeling absolutely furious when Argos changed some signage in their shop. Julie again makes the point. Imagine how women might feel when men want to dictate how much makeup they should wear, which is a valid point, but a slightly different one, I think. Craig's in Cannock. Craig, what are we supposed to be upset about?
Hi, James. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
I've got to say, I love the History Today reference at the top of the hour. Nice cutting-edge pop reference.
Yes, anything
that's you, that is.
30 years old, that is you. What are we supposed to be upset about with the Argos story?
I'm aware that what I'm about to say is probably going to make me a bit of a paradox, but it gets me the amount of energy that's being put into this.
Yes, exactly.
Argos in the first place, they're actually spending however much money employing somebody.
I doubt it. I imagine the signs are being replaced. I imagine the signs are being replaced anyway, and that's why it hasn't happened sooner. And now that they're replacing them, they've changed the word on them. I don't think they've sent someone around with Tipp-Ex.
The spending money on somebody's wage is at least spent however long thinking about it, and then they pass the information on. And it's this kind of thing that's going on a lot in businesses where they're sort of trying to be ultra sensitive, overly sensitive to potentially people's concerns and that side of things.
Too much sensitivity, really. Too much sensitivity.
Yeah, to my mind, I don't care.
What's the opposite of sensitive? What's the opposite of sensitive?
How can I put it? It's about being pragmatic about.
No, it's insensitive.
It's not being outright insensitive. It's about people having less of a thin skin towards.
But the people with the thin skin, are the people complaining about the new signs.
Yeah, hence me saying, me actually phoning in and saying this, expending the energy on it, is paradoxical in itself.
But the people complaining about the news sign probably agree with much of what you've just said about sensitivity, but they're the ones who are being hypersensitive because they're the ones going nuts. No one was really going nuts about the old sign. It's the people going nuts about the new sign and claiming that a non-existent or negligible number of people who were mildly unhappy with the old sign are the problem.
Let me explain, though, why it frustrates me, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
This money that they're spending to try and be ultra-sensitive towards...
But I think you need to let that go. I think they're constantly replacing that. I will do, when I have. They're constantly replacing signage in their stores and in their depots. They're very shiny... retail offerings, Argos is, because they don't have any goods on the shop floor. It's all about the pristine nature of the signs are always new. They'll be replacing them probably every 2 or 3 months, mate. So it's not like they've decided to spend a ton of money on getting rid of an old word. So park the worry about the money. That's not part of it.
But a side of that is basically it would have had to have gone however far up the food chain and have people signing off on it.
Yeah, but they'll be signing off on the new pictures. They'll be saying, "Oh no, let's not do that because it's going to look a bit weird in August, isn't it? That I don't know, that electric blanket. Let's put a slush puppy machine on the new poster." That goes on again. That goes on all the time, Craig.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is the resourcing that they're using on that could be used for much better things. So too many companies are hyper bothered about this side of things.
So the 30-second...
let's help vulnerable people a bit more with this little bit of cash that we've got sloshing about. Let's put it into, I don't know...
Go on.
Somebody who's homeless, passing it on to homeless charities and that side of things.
How would we work out if someone's on, I don't know, 45 grand a year and part of their job involved deciding, I don't know, on a Friday afternoon that they were going to change the word two-man delivery to two-person delivery? How much money do you think we could have raised for the homeless by encouraging them to leave it as it was before?
Okay, does it have to be the money? Could it be the same person?
It's your theory. It's literally your point.
Let me finish.
Could it
be the same person going out to, say, a soup kitchen or a food bank and helping out whilst being paid by Argos to do so? Right.
So instead of working on posters in their shops, they should be out working in food banks while being paid by Argos. Do you know what? Have you finished?
Go for it.
No, have you finished? Because you kept saying, let me finish. I don't want you to say it again. Have you actually finished?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
Oh, thank goodness for that. 12:49 is the time. I don't know. I think Martin in Bristol is top of the class today. It's almost like a defence mechanism. And if someone says to you, you can't say that anymore, it's almost impossible to do it in a way that doesn't make you bridle. Okay? Anyone says, you can't say that anymore. I remember doing it to Dad. I remember doing it to my dad. I can't remember off the top of my head zinging examples, but you would say, I don't know, I don't know if you can say that. I don't know if you should say that. And it's political correctness gone mad was the quick response to it. So someone says, we don't really use that word anymore. You remember? And then you feel, I don't know what the word is, because it's not guilt necessarily or even a shame. I think it's just peed off, isn't it? You're just irritated, just a bit, yeah. And then maybe that extrapolates to actually having an emotional response to Argos changing their signage in their shops, which is weird, isn't it? If I said to you a couple of years ago, one day you're going to wake up and have quite a strong emotional response to Argos changing the signage in their shops, and you'd say, well, what are they going to do? I say they're going to change the words two-man delivery to two-person delivery. I don't think I am going to have a strong emotional reaction to that change, but then stuff happens and percolates and broader movements unfold, whether it's Black Lives Matter or the transgender debate or whatever it may be. And then suddenly that is rendered provocative. And I don't know what you're supposed to be or what I'm supposed to be upset about. Quite a few of you pointing out that Argos employees actually do get a number of paid days off a year to do volunteering. So Craig and Cannock's going to be absolutely cock-a-hoop about that. Brent's in Derby. Brent, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Yeah, this is the oldest trick in the book, isn't it?
I think so.
Where would religion be without the devil? Where would McCarthyism be without communism? It's the oldest trick. It's just a new thing.
I mean, it's an interesting new twist on the old trick, isn't it? Because, I mean, I can have a fair crack at describing what communism is and why people can be persuaded to be fearful of it. And, you know, I've got the Bible in front of me. I know what the devil's all about and that business in the Garden of Eden. He's a right old wrong-un. So, you know, but woke? What woke is the enemy? It's
Orwellian, you know, an Orwellian thing. You know, it's the idea the enemy is there and the enemy's out to get you. And that's the psychological level this works at. It's not the Argos thing. It's if you tolerate this, where will it end? And that conjures in people's minds the deep sense of fear and paranoia. And that lets people's imaginations run riot, that they're out to get you. It's almost, you know, a groupthink psychological sort of trick they're playing on people of they're coming for you. Because we can't define this nebulous blob that is wokeism.
So that speech from Florida, in a way, is sort of diabolical genius, because it is as if the enemy expands to fill all of the available space in the empty heads of your followers.
Yes, exactly. And that allows them to paint everything as this is woke, that's when into your footballification thing of the tribalism as well. You could have taken that speech in the 1920s and put it to the KKK. Yeah. That was very, very Ian Paisley. No surrender to a woke ideology. Yeah. That's firebrand stuff. That gets the crowd going.
Papist. So we should change the word woke to papist.
You've got it. You've got Nuremberg there.
Or Jewish. Yes. Change the word woke to Jewish.
Migrant, it works at so many levels, and I think they found the kind of the golden goose that lays the kind of the popular.
Because it can mean all of those things and none of them.
And they can paint anything on it. So if you speak up, they can cancel you. Oh, you're one of those woke people. And you're like, well, hold on a second. Why am I one of those? And it comes down to progress and change. People sometimes don't like change, and they don't want control lost. And that's why you get a certain type of individual who feels that things are out of control. We need to get back control.
That's good.
It links into that, like, we're out of our depth here, we're out of control. So we'll run to that person who's going to save us from the woke, who talks tough, who acts tough. Save us from woke. The same way Bush did that with the war on terror, you know what I mean? I'm talking tough, I will protect you. It's the oldest trick in the political book. Create an enemy, I save you from it.
And the more indistinct the enemy is, in a way, the more powerful the rhetoric becomes. I mean, it'd be much, much harder, well, I hope it would be much harder to transfer it into direct action, into actual violence, in the way that when the enemy, the target, is much more easy to determine and define by colour or ethnicity or you know, I mean, haircuts or whatever it may be. This is vaguer, but arguably therefore much bigger. How then, briefly, because I like the way your brain works, but briefly, how does this segue to Argos?
It segues to Argos because Argos have bought into it. Argos have been, you know, it's almost like the invasion of the body snatchers.
Right.
They've got, you know, in the invasion of the body snatchers, when the guy calls out at the end, they've been taken over by woke. They're now as part of the wokeage. I fear it builds into that kind of, they've got to them too, haven't they? They've now.
So in fact, so in fact, that observation a moment ago about people 5 years ago being much less likely to have had kittens over the change of a phrase on a poster in a shop from 2-man to 2-person. They're having kittens now because it's of a piece with all the other provocation and rhetoric that surrounds the whole question of wokeness.
I'll give you one example. I work in education. We changed the language in education from head master and head mistress to head teacher a generation ago.
Yeah.
Not a bat in an eyelid. Nobody now talks about, oh my word, it's disgusting changing head teacher.
It's emasculation, it's misandry. It's why does everybody hate men?
Headmaster. And, you know, and I grew up with a headmaster. That was, too. And I had to change my language, but that was changed, no problem whatsoever. There was no big news stories. No
there would be now.
That was done. Oh, without a doubt, it would be front page news. You know, schools have, and that would be the other thing of like, schools are preying on our young, and it is that if you tolerate this, then your children will be next kind of ideology, isn't it?
It is. I don't think the Manic Street Preachers are particularly anti-woke.
That's the Spanish Civil War. You know that came from. That came from this. You should know. You know
I know it does. But for my for many people, I think it's the Manic Street Preachers lyric that springs to mind when that phrase is introduced into the ether. Brent, that was lovely. Thank you. And actually, it makes sense. It is. So existence is, was it John Locke? No, I always forget this. Who said it was nasty, brutish and short? Life is nasty, brutish and short. It's certainly chaotic. And what the worst kind of politics does is sell you the illusion that it's not. If you wear the right clothes, if you polish your shoes, if you salute in the right way, if you march in the right fashion, then you can actually keep the chaos at bay, and society will be ordered, and randomness and fickleness will be exempt from your existence. And so the more order there is, the more control you can impose, the safer the population will feel. It's why people vote for fascism. It's why they like it. It was Hobbes, nasty, brutish and short, in Leviathan, I think. And that's the point, isn't it? So if there is a sense that the order is being shaken and the chaos may get in, then even something as fundamentally ridiculous as signage in a branch of Argos, or indeed all branches of Argos, in every Argos, that can be part of the threat. That can be part of the problem. So how do you help people who've been rendered frightened by that? I don't know, but we've only got a minute left, so we're unlikely to come up with the answer. I shall give it or most of it to Rachel, who's in Bristol. Rachel, what would you like to say?
Oh, hi there, James.
Hello,
I can't really sum it up better than Brent did.
He was good, wasn't he?
But he was very good. I do just have one thing to add, though. I'm an English teacher myself, so I'm sometimes seen as the woke, or I might be seen as woke, or a snowflake or whatever, because I think about language an awful lot, not only how it affects my students, but, when we're analysing it in class, it's all part of it's my bread and butter. But something that popped to mind was the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, that language affects thought and thought affects language. And I think actually the people who are concerned about this language change, maybe subconsciously, are worrying about how this change in phraseology could affect them and their kind of equality. And I think the liberating
or inequality, their role in an unequal society comes under threat, perhaps even more pertinently.
Absolutely. But something that I speak to my students about is how equality isn't finite, and that actually if people are delivering furniture or whatever Argos is selling, that doesn't mean that men are going to get less jobs, and it seems
or are going to be in any way diminished. Rachel, I warned you. I only had a minute. I think we've covered all the bases there. We've veered from the ridiculous to the serious to the illuminating to the downright bonkers, which is, I think, the best description you could have of an hour of radio phoning. So thank you to everybody. I leave you with Stuart's thought. He says, it's much easier to sell tickets to the ghost train than the Speak Your Weight machine. Now that is clever. I wonder who first came up with that. We'll do it all again tomorrow morning from 10. Here's Sheila Fogarty. From 10, 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 here's Sheila Fogarty. From 10.
Có người lặng lẽ ngồi buồn, biển chiều hoang vắng mây